Hey everybody, welcome back to some more early morning barking, talking about BPD and MPD by somebody that has both. Today I'm going to be issuing a bit of a correction. Correction. Yeah. I've never knowingly said anything wrong on purpose or anything like that. But we grow, we learn, we change things, we move our position on stuff, and over time it becomes important to revisit particular topics. And this is one in particular that needs some revisiting, because I put out a video on this subject a while ago now. I think it's about a year ago. And since then, well, I've learned a lot. My position on things has changed significantly. The science on things has moved significantly, and I've come to understand this issue in completely different terms. And I'm gonna try and sort of vocalize as much of that as I can. Some of it is still very difficult. All will become clear. I am, of course, talking about porn addiction, which is quite a hot topic. This idea of becoming addicted to porn, to, involuntarily, habitually watching porn and everything that goes along with doing that. And this is a sort of growing issue. This is a big issue that a lot of people are struggling with. And there are a lot of communities that have grown up around this, and some of which can be quite toxic and damaging and not really promoting healthy behavior. And so, as I've come to learn and evolve on this issue, it's important to share what I've got to say, because I've talked about this from previous. First of all, I guess go watch the old video. I'll link it in the description below if I remember to, and do that bearing in mind that I think most of it is wrong now. Okay. I've moved on the issue of there being such a thing as porn addiction, which is quite a crazy thing. It's a big leap, isn't it? Like, suddenly to go from making a video about explaining your own porn addiction and how you dealt with it, etc., and all that kind of thing, to like, there's no such thing. And a lot of people will just jump out with, but hang on a minute, what about me? Right? I feel like I've got a porn addiction. I know. I did. I kind of still do, right? But bear with me. If I'm suggesting that we're not addicted to the porn, then what's the problem? Right? Because your day-to-day experience is that you are consuming far too much porn, right? And look, I'm not here to debate again, like, the morality, legality, etc. of pornography. That's a totally separate issue. I am here to talk to people who are struggling with watching unhealthy amounts of it. And by unhealthy amounts, I know I'm talking to people who are watching like many hours a day of this, right? Beyond, even if you're someone who's totally happy with porn and its healthy use and all of that, etc., you'll even be like, whoa, dude, that's a lot though. That kind of thing. That's what we're talking about. So if you're not addicted to it, what's the problem, right? That's what you want to know. Let me read something to you that I hope I've left open. I have. And okay, I'm reading this from a website here. Stimming, or self-stimulatory behavior, is repetitive or unusual body movement or noises. Stimming might include hand or finger mannerisms, for example, finger flicking and hand flapping. Unusual body movements, for example, rocking back and forth while sitting or standing. Posturing, for example, holding hands or fingers out at an angle or arching the back while sitting. Visual stimulation, for example, looking at something sideways, watching an object spin, or fluttering fingers near the eyes. Repetitive behavior, for example, opening and closing doors or flicking switches. Chewing or mouthing objects, listening to the same song or noise over and over. Now, I'm getting that from a website talking about autistic children. And I'm not suggesting you're an autistic child or autistic. The reason I'm mentioning stimming, which is a thing, that's a thing. It's a physical, comforting behavior most commonly exhibited in people with autism. What I'm suggesting is that what we're experiencing is actually far closer to that than it is to an addiction. What I'm suggesting is that the excessive porn use isn't the problem. That is the symptom. That is how the problem is playing out. And the reason why you can't stop watching porn, why you're having so much trouble dealing with that, is because it's not your problem. It's more like a way of handling a problem. It's your crutch. It's your stimming. It's your thing that you do to retreat internally and not face your problem. You just happen to have landed on porn with your way of dealing with that. There are many other ways of achieving the same effect. And in some way, I don't know, maybe porn is one of the lesser harmful ones. I mean, God, when you think of ways that you can zone out, they're all pretty harmful, right? But that's what I'm suggesting we're doing. We're not facing a problem. Porn addiction isn't an addiction to pornography at all. It is a way of removing ourselves from whatever it is that we're not dealing with. We aren't going to get over it until we fix the problem that is causing us to need that level of retreat. That problem could be anything, right? That's for you to discover. That's your inner pain. I know what it was in my life, right? In my life, it was a whole lot of BPD things, MPD things, relationship things, financial things. It's so obvious what my problems were in life. A lot of them are still there. And so when you can't face that, when you're overwhelmed, this is our equivalent of sitting there and rocking back and forth. We're just doing porn instead. And it's nothing to do with the porn. It's nothing to do with that. It's just that's what we've landed on, to retreat inside ourselves one way or another. And it's a very controversial thing, right? This is where all our problems spring up around it, you know? It's a difficult thing. The fact that you viewed porn at all could be a relationship ender for you. There are some massive problems with this, and into this sort of religious guilt and shame and various things like that. Some of us could be going through a lot, and yet we keep going back because we're not fixing our problem. It's our coping mechanism, right? It's up there, not with an addiction, but with like drinking or smoking weed, or whatever we need to do, or whatever we find to zone out, to shut ourselves down, to put our head in the sand, our fingers in our ears, and not face up to our problem. You're not a bad person. You're not evil. You are caught in a set of problems in your life. There are things that are hurting you, things that are causing you worry and anxiety and stress. And you found a thing that for however long, relieves that. And you know it's unhealthy. You know it's a retreat, really, that we're not dealing with a thing. We're not facing a thing, but we're not addicted to the porn. It's not that that's dragging us in, that's doing that. It's us. It's our lives. It's what's going on for us at the time. Right? Happy people with happy, fulfilling, full lives aren't suffering from this problem. They're busy doing stuff. They're busy being happy and living their lives, going to work, having hobbies, seeing friends, all these other things. That's what they're doing. It's those of us who are in pain, those of us who are suffering, who are needing an outlet and needing something to numb that. And we found this. And everything about it, everything that we talk about, the way we frame it, the way we talk about getting over it, only serves to further harm us. Right? The guilt, the shame, all of that, the damage it does to relationships, none of that makes you feel any better. And when it makes you feel worse. So what do? You retreat further into the thing that protects you from that pain, which is causing you all these problems. So you're in this vicious cycle straight away. And we just degrade and degrade and degrade because we don't fix our problem. And then, so what do we find? We find communities that say, you've got to stop doing this. You've got to stop looking at porn. It seems like the obvious thing to do, but you haven't fixed the problem. You still need a crutch. So when you take that crutch away, you fall down and you aren't going to get up again. You need a crutch, or you need to stop needing a crutch. You can't just decide you're not going to have one. That brings disaster. It might not be the best thing in the world. It might not be the healthiest thing in the world, but it's helping you cope one way or another. And if you need to get rid of that, then you need to get rid of the thing that you are coping with. That's altogether a bit harder because, like I say, it could be anything. I can't advise you generally in a video about porn addiction how to fix that thing because I don't know what it is, and it could be anything. It's a lot easier if I can tell you about porn addiction, right? And I can make a video with steps about how to get over that. Well, I can't. And neither can anybody else. You need a crutch in your life. You found one. You want to get rid of that crutch? Get rid of the reason for needing the crutch. Easier said than done. Takes time, takes work, takes some deep soul searching, all of that, some self-analysis, maybe even work in therapy. Maybe it takes facing up to some hard truths in life. Maybe it involves making changes, significant changes, which is always scary. And it's difficult to face scary things when you have such a reliable defense mechanism. So yeah, I've reached the point where I'm happy to accept that there really is no such thing, so to speak. We're not addicted to porn. The porn isn't doing anything to us. We have a problem, and we have things that we're not dealing with, and this has become our coping mechanism. So we can't get rid of it until we get rid of the thing we need to cope with. That actually makes it sound pretty simple. There, it's easy. Do better, suck less. Sorry. We'll deal with the rest of it another time. There's a lot I've got to say about intimacy as well, because I'm going to leave you with this cliffhanger. I don't think there's anything related to erectile dysfunction and excessive porn use either. That's another video. Keep watching the channel. Subscribe. You'll get that eventually. Honestly, I'm having more trouble putting that one into words, but yeah, I hope this helps. I hope this video is in some way monetizable. I've said the P word a lot, but whatever. In case it's not, please go and visit patreon.com/earlymorningbarking. Please click the membership button below. And don't forget, over at Patreon, I've got my Living with BPD course, which is on to part 2 now, part 3 coming, hopefully. I don't know. I want it to be this week, but it might be next week. We'll see how things go. But that's going to be about favorite people and romantic obsession and that sort of thing. Go and get parts 1 and 2 now so you caught up. And I will see you later. Bye-bye.